So what is next for the Philadelphia 76ers as a basketball organization? You're watching 76ers Now by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Sr. And you know what's crazy? I am recording this show before Game 7 is even over. Why is that? Because it's absolutely embarrassing the effort that the Sixers displayed today. As I'm recording this right now, there are 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and the Sixers are down by 30. And I want to begin with this. I am embarrassed to be a fan of the Philadelphia 76ers. I grew up in Westchester. I've loved this basketball team my entire life. Allen Iverson and Brian Dawkins, two of my favorite athletes of all time. I grew up idolizing AI. I wanted tattoos and cornrows as a kid. So this team means a lot to me. And this loss hurts me as much as it hurts you. To see the Sixers in a do-or-die game against an arch rival who they have not beaten in a playoff series since 1982 completely fold like this, it's an absolute disgrace. The effort from the Sixers in this Game 7 was embarrassing, it was gutless, and the Sixers by the Celtics got bent over, and they rolled over as early as the third quarter like a lapdog. Just like Jayson Tatum dominated the Sixers in that fourth quarter to basically win this series, and I called it at the time, Jayson Tatum goes off for more than 50 points in this Game 7, and he was and will continue to be the Sixers' daddy. Now, Doc Rivers will probably get fired, and if the Sixers lost in a close game or a blowout, he was probably gone just because of the money that he's getting paid and the Sixers failing to reach expectations. But let me be blatantly clear here. This loss in Game 7 against the Celtics is not, and let me repeat, it is not on Doc Rivers. This loss is on the team's two superstars in Joel Embiid and James Harden. To put it blatant, they were straight up terrible in this basketball game. Whereas the Celtics' two stars were stars of the show, 51 points for Tatum, 25 points for Jaylen Brown. Equally as great as those two guys were, that's how bad Joel Embiid and James Harden were. Embiid, 5 of 18 points for 5 of 18 from the field, 15 points, a minus 28. And James Harden, 3 of 11, 9 points. Now, Harden is a minus 30 in this game. Joel Embiid, a minus 28. And what's sad about this is that I'm not surprised that Harden no-showed a Game 7. His entire career, this has been the foundation of it. This has been who he is. But for Embiid to stop trying, that's what's so disappointing. And that's what's honestly sickening. Now, keep in mind, Embiid is playing with the knee injury, but he was good in this series. Game 3, played solid. Game 4, he was good. Game 5, he was great. Game 6 and 7, he was not good. And to see the lack of effort from Joel Embiid, that's what really gets to you as a Sixers fan. It got to the point where in a do-or-die game, the Sixers just gave up. And they gave up with plenty of time left in this game. And that lack of effort and the bad body language across the bench was led by the team's two superstars in Embiid and Harden. Complete no-show today. And today, you saw the difference between a championship organization with 17 titles and a loser generation that hasn't made it past the second round since 2001 and once again collapsed with an opportunity to close this series out at home, up 3-2. When teams take a 3-2 lead in a best-of-7 series, they win well over 70% of the time. And the Sixers led in this game by, let's be real, what does the track record show? Two perennial losers in Joel Embiid and James Harden. This game and this loss not on Doc Rivers. He will be made out to be the scapegoat, and he was going to get fired either way. This loss is not on him. This loss is on Embiid and Harden, the two leaders who did not lead in this game. What does a true superstar look like? A true superstar looks like Jayson Tatum. who was awful in Game 6 up until the fourth quarter, then outscored the Sixers by himself. And that momentum carried over into Game 7, where he pops off for 51. I have said before that Joel Embiid is better than Nikola Jokic and that he deserved MVP this year. No longer. You can't no-show and not try in a Game 7 like that. And Al Horford had the clamps on Joel Embiid. And if James Harden wants to go to the Houston Rockets, see ya. Let him walk. You're not built for this city. Now, before we continue to move forward, this is the biggest Sixers offseason maybe of my lifetime. And I'm 31 years old. No joke. We're going to have you covered every step of the way. Win or loss, we've been here for you. And throughout this offseason, we're going to be here for you. Let's get to 10,000 subs. Please subscribe right now. This was the importance of winning Game 6 because I had said, Sixers lost that game, they pretty much lost the series. You were not going to go on the road and beat Boston a third time for a team that has this championship level pedigree. And let's talk about Joel Embiid at length here. You seriously have to wonder what his future is with this organization. A great player, Hall of Famer. I've called him a blend between Shaquille O'Neal and Hakeem Olajuwon. Shaquille O'Neal wouldn't let this happen. Embiid would physically overpower Cats if he was Shaq. But let's be real and let's be honest. I know we're all emotional. Embiid is a special player. He's a future Hall of Famer. His basketball career and basketball life has been fascinating, from barely playing as a teenager to being so raw where he couldn't even dribble a basketball, to going to Kansas, getting made fun of while he was there, nearly quitting, and then being, the number 3 overall pick by the Sixers and turning into an MVP. But what is his future with this organization? And you have to pose this question, whether Daryl Morey is here or not. I'm not even sure if he's going to be the future executive of this team or if the Sixers just rip it down and start over. Do the Sixers trade Joel Embiid and start over? The second round curse continues. And in the thought of trading Embiid is the fact that he is at the peak of his value coming off an MVP season. You might not be able to trade him for a better coup of assets than you can right now in this offseason. And to go out like this is just really, really ugly. I think the only player that is for sure safe on this team is Tyrese Maxey. Everybody else could be gone. I think Doc Rivers has held this team back. Tobias Harris, awful contract. He's held this team back. You always have to wonder what this organization would look like if they still had Jimmy Butler, because I don't think Jimmy Butler lets this series go 7 games. I think that they come back to the Wells Fargo Center with Jimmy Buckets and they win it just because of the dog mentality that he has. PJ Tucker, the only dog on the floor. 11 points in the first quarter. He kept the Sixers in it. Only dog on the floor for Philadelphia. So if you traded Embiid, let's just talk about like a team of the Golden State Warriors. And you could get Jordan Poole, Jonathan Kuminga, Andrew Wiggins, Moses Moody. You have Tyrese Maxey. He goes to a team that really needs a center that could extend its prime and try to win a championship right now. Those are the types of deals that the Sixers could field. A team like the New York Knicks, a lot of future first-round picks. If you really do just want to rebuild and reboot your franchise, they have a bevy, a treasure chest of first-round picks, and a couple of good young players who you could bring in. That's also a thought off the top of my mind. So Embiid, I think his future, it's at least come into question more so than any time over the last couple of years. 2019 quadruple bounce against the Raptors. You weren't going to let him go. 2021, you lose to the Hawks. He was still safe. Last year, you lose to the Heat. Let's run it back. But now, all questions on the table because all quality businesses do look ahead and they plan for the future. It's time for the Sixers to do that right now before he gets too old, he's injured, and then he has no value before you can't get back anything. As for James Harden, not much to say. This is classic. What a loser. James Harden is a gifted ball player. I give him credit for extending his prime. The vision that he's been able to display, the passing ability, really is unique and special. James Harden is a Hall of Famer. I give him credit for being a guy who wasn't really talked about when he was going to Arizona State out of high school, wasn't really talked about too much going into the NBA draft. It's not like he's an insane athlete. You can tell that he really worked on his craft. He's gone on to have a fabulous career, was a role player for those Thunder teams, goes to Houston, becomes a star. But look, you are what your history shows you are, right? And James Harden, year in, year out, has been a loser for the majority of his NBA career. And look, I'll always remember game 1, 45 points. I'll remember game 4, 42 points. You know what I'm going to remember more? Is the fact that Jayson Tatum in game 7 alone had more points than Harden did in games 5, 6, and 7 combined. It just can't happen. And if he wants to go to the Houston Rockets, let him go. As for Doc Rivers, we mentioned him a little bit earlier. We could talk about him at length. I thought Kendrick Perkins made a funny point on Twitter. He said, Doc Rivers shouldn't even give the Sixers a chance to fire him after this game. He should just resign right after the year because it was so clear that this loss was not on him. It was on Embiid. It was on Harden. Doc Rivers is gone either way. Now, the Sixers might have their choice of Nick Nurse or Monty Williams, but do Nick Nurse and Monty Williams want to come here given the pressure that comes along with coaching this team, but the uncertain future of this organization? Because rank these jobs for me real quick. Milwaukee Bucks, Phoenix Suns, and the Philadelphia 76ers. Milwaukee Bucks, you still have Giannis, who is leaps and bounds better than Joel Embiid. For the Suns, you still have one of the best bucket getters in the league in Devin Booker, who is sensational in the second round. If the Suns had a little bit more depth, maybe that series would have been a little bit more competitive. You still have Kevin Durant. Your depth is depleted after that KD trade, but that's a better job than Philadelphia's, plus a better place to live, and I'm from the Philly area. And then the Sixers' job comes in last among the openings for championship playoff caliber teams. So you might have your choice of Nick Nurse or Monty Williams, but do they really want to come here? Monty Williams, by the way, former Sixers assistant. And they're probably looking at this gig saying, well, if Harden leaves, who's going to be the second co-star? Tyrese Maxey probably can't be that guy because he has limitations just given his size. He's not Allen Iverson. He can get defended by Jaylen Brown, Jayson Tatum, Malcolm Brogdon, Derek White like he was in this playoff series, even though he turned the corner the last couple of games and was really good. And then you look at the free agent crop. It's a bad time for the Sixers to need a co-star if they want to keep Joel Embiid, because the list of superstars is actually pretty thin in this free agency class. Harden has that player option. Chris Middleton does as well. Kyrie Irving is an unrestricted free agent, but the flat earther that he is, you never know what he's thinking. D'Angelo Russell is a free agent, but no thanks. And then you look further down on this list. Harrison Barnes has bird rights. Jeremy Grant, bird rights. They're not a second superstar. Do you trade for Damian Lillard? If you have to do that, you're trading away Tyrese Maxey. He's the only valuable asset that you have. You look further down at this list. The best available free agent outside of that is a Dillon Brooks, who's a fraud. So there are not a lot of good free agents for the Sixers to choose from here to try to effort this rebuilding process. The Sixers do have top 10 odds in the NBA to trade for CP3, but you know why he's available? Because he's old. He's also only made it out of the second round of the playoffs one time in his career. And the Phoenix Suns want to get rid of him because he's not as productive, he's old, he's brittle, and his contract sucks. Chris Paul's next team odds: Lakers 3-1, Timberwolves 4-1, Clippers 6-1, Philadelphia 76ers 7-1. Now, if Tyronn Lue leaves the Clippers, I'd try to hire him in a heartbeat. Honestly, I might take him over a Nick Nurse or a Monty Williams. But again, do those coaches want to come here? Bleak future for this organization. This was the opportunity. You had it on the tip of your fingers in Game 6 when you were up 83-81. From that point, Jayson Tatum outscored the basketball team by himself in that fourth quarter. Make sure you subscribe. We appreciate all the support. Like I said, biggest offseason in my lifetime for Philadelphia coming up. There's going to be a lot that transpires potentially. A lot of news, rumors, analysis to get to. We have you covered here on the show. It's youtube.com/76ers TV. Subscribe, lock us in. We appreciate you.